Yeah.
Yes, we are recording now.
I tell you. I was gonna say.
I was like.
You ready?
If that's your
Yes.
name.
5:31 PM, we do have a quorum, we'll call the meeting to order. And I'd like to ask Brother Will Anderson, Lighthouse Church, if he'll lead us in a prayer and a play.
Good, stand. And let's pray. Lord, we thank you today for this beautiful day. Thank you for all the wonderful people that have gathered here together today. Help us make decisions about our wonderful city. God, we ask that your hand of wisdom, that your hand of anointing and power will be with us today. Help us and lead us and guide us, and help us throughout this meeting to be in unity and in agreement with each other. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. And if we could, let's pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will, thank you, sir.
My honor, thank you.
Yes, sir. I will go to an open forum. This is an opportunity for the public to address the city commission on any matter of public business, except public hearings. Comments related to public hearings will be heard when the specific hearing begins.
No one's signed up to skip there.
Special presentation announcement. Mayoral proclamations presenting awards, certificates, and other acknowledgements of significant accomplishments or service to the community. Item 1, administer the oath of office to Police Chief Blake Johnson. I'll turn it over to Jessica.
Sure. Well, we are happy today to administer the oath to our new police chief, Blake Johnson. So Blake, if you will just raise your hand, your right hand, and you're gonna repeat after me. We're gonna start with your statement of officer. I, Blake Johnson,
I, Blake Johnson,
do solemnly swear and
do
affirm
solemnly swear or affirm
that I have not,
that I have not
directly or indirectly,
directly or indirectly
paid,
paid,
offered,
offered,
promised to pay,
promised to pay,
contributed,
contributed,
or promised to
or
contribute
promised to contribute
any money
any money
or thing of value,
or thing of value,
or promised
or promised
any public office
any public office
or employment
or employment
for the giving
for the giving
or withholding
or withholding
of a vote
of a vote
at the election
at the election
at which I was elected,
at which I was elected,
or as a reward
or as a reward
to secure my appointment
to procure my appointment
or confirmation,
or confirmation,
whichever the case may be.
whichever the case may be.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right. We will sign that in just a moment. And then next we will do your oath of office. Okay, again, raise your right hand. I, Blake Johnson,
I, Blake Johnson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I faithfully
that I faithfully
execute
execute
the duties
the duties
of the office
of the office
of the Chief of Police
of the Chief of Police
of the State of Texas,
of the State of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve,
preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws
and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right. Welcome to the team, Blake. Stay with me after and we'll do it. If you want to introduce your family.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I had to make words, I'm sorry.
Well, did you want to introduce your family?
I'm sorry, yeah. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. First off, I'd like to appreciate, my mom. This is my wife, Monica. This is my daughter, Hannah. And then in the back, I have, coming from San Antonio, where we came from, Aaron Valmaldo and his wife, and Del, almost didn't say your name. And also one of my longtime bosses, Bennett, Bill Bennett. I was forgetting he was the Chief Bennett to me, so. So I appreciate it. I will say the one thing, since I'm talking, I don't want to stop real quick, but I'm looking forward to, and I've really enjoyed, in the last 2 weeks, we've had a lot going on, but I'll tell y'all the one thing that this city has, and the one asset that is not a problem is the people that work for you in this police department and animal control. You've got some really dedicated people to the city, and I mean, it's been a privilege because these guys have shown me a commitment that I have not seen from a police department, and just the knowledge they have, and it makes my job a whole lot easier. So I can tell y'all that, like I said, we're very blessed to have good people working for us. So I thank y'all.
Thank you, Blake. Go to our staff reports. Reports are for discussion only. No action may be taken on items listed under this portion of the agenda, other than to provide general direction to staff or to direct staff to place such items of a future agenda for action. This time I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We're gonna go through the events first, and they're up there. We do have, this week is Municipal Clerks Week, otherwise known as City Secretary Week. And we're thankful for our City Secretary, Jessica Sutter. She does an outstanding job. It's also, next week will be National Police Week. So it's fitting that we just swore in a new, police chief, and we've got several of our, command staff here and officers here, so we appreciate you guys. And we're gonna be doing some special things on Facebook to recognize you. And then next week, May 14th, we do have the special meeting to canvass the votes. And then vote pickup will be May 16th. Just remember, for those of you that may be watching, vote pickup, you do need to schedule that. So you can do that online, or you can call us and let us know, but you can't just put the bulk trash out at the curb. You do need to schedule it, so by either calling or doing that online. So, and then the 19th through the 25th is National Public Works Week. And we again appreciate our Public Works team. We've got several of them in training today for the next couple of days. So Todd Henderson is not here, he's in training. And then, of course, at the end of the month, we've got the Breckenridge Air Show, which we're really excited about. I know Rhonda's doing a whole lot of work on that event. This is the first time in how many years that it's been done. And Judy, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, so 2018 was our last air show, and yes, Rhonda is a coordinator. She's been working really hard on that, getting a lot of sponsors. Tora will be there. There's gonna be ball drops of like little balls you can get. And then the next day is gonna be like the bombs and stuff. So it's gonna be really fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and yours truly, Cynthia, will be singing the national anthem. Is that right? Sorry, I'm sorry. I have to say it. She did great. She did great last year at Frontier Days. And so I'm so happy she'll be back for air show.
Yeah. Thank you, Judy. To go incognito on that. And then the next thing I did want to do before we do our employee of the month, I did just want to update you. You got the department head reports in your packet. But I did want to highlight text. It is a text up project. We did put out a post about it. As you all remember, we did pass construction speed limits for that project. And what that is a milling and an overlay from Rose, let me turn around where I'm turning, from Rose west. And it'll be both lanes, east and westbound. Of course, they'll have traffic control, and they'll always have a lane of traffic open on each side on how they do that. But the speed limits are reduced 10 miles. And between here and beyond our city limits, that changes like 3 times. So where it was 40 miles an hour, which is almost all the way to United, it will be 30 miles an hour, and that's they are posted. So that is in effect right now. And then beyond that, where it was 45, it's now 35. Where it was 50, it's now 45, and then 55 will be 45 beyond Walmart out to the Mile Long Bridge. So that project is scheduled to start, weather dependent. If you remember, they were initially forecasting March that it would start, but with weather, it's been postponed. So May 9th, the end of this week is when we are looking at starting that project. So it is about a 4 to 5 month project, weather dependent. Always weather dependent. So the employee, so that's all city business, the employee of the month, I'm really pleased, again, Todd is in training, or he would be doing this, but I'm really excited to do this for Sherry Morgan. And I know she is so unassuming, she doesn't probably want to come up, but we're making her come up. You would come up. You stand at the podium. We love Sherry. She works in the front office, and I will tell you, she's been here for about 3 years, and she is hardworking. She is trustworthy. She is dependable. She's willing to do anything asked of her. And I think probably one of the most outstanding characteristics that she brings to the table is her compassion. And she's very calm and very level-headed. And when we're dealing with people up front who might be upset about different things, she's the one that calms them down and listens and is very respectful of them and really shows them compassion. So Sherry, you are our employee of the month, and you do model our Breck core values, which is, I will say, maybe not the bold part, but the responsible part, excellent, compassionate, and knowledgeable. So we really appreciate you. Thank you so much. And let's present this, and there's a little gift card there for you, small token of our appreciation.
And wait, hold your award up. You gotta hold the award up.
No. It can be her.
Oh, I agree.
She's also real good about letting me in when I leave my keys at home.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll go down to our consent agenda. Any commission member may request an item on the consent agenda to be taken up for individual consideration. And I would ask us, we'll look at item 4, 5, and 6, and then we'll have somebody make an approval on those 3.
I move we approve consent agenda items 4 through 6 as presented.
The second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Action items, item 7. Discussion and any necessary action regarding request to replat property legally described as Martin Addition Block 1, Lot N72 and the alley, and Lot S80 and the alley into 4 lots. I'll turn it back over to our city manager.
Thank you. If you could go to the map on that, please. So the owner of this property wants to replat this property into 4 lots. So right now it's 2. And I know this is sideways, but just for reference, these are the 2 lots that we're talking about. And then if you go to the next map, those are the 4 lots that they're proposing. So this has gone through P&Z, and they held a public hearing on this replat on Monday, April 29th. And they did take action to recommend to the city commission approval of this replat request.
I move to approve P and Z recommendation to approve replat as requested.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Action items, discuss any, no, I'm sorry, we did that. All right, we're gonna switch. We're gonna go to 9 next, and we'll come back and catch 8. So item 9, discussion and consideration of section 3 policy information for the city's tech CDBQ contract number CDM 122-0020 downtown revitalization project. I'll turn it back to city manager.
Okay, so this does, has to do with the downtown revitalization grant that we received. And this is one of the requirements of the grant. We do have Kristen from Public Management, a representative, and so she's going to give the presentation on that. So if you want to come up here and share that presentation.
Let me know if I need to go anywhere. Or if you want the mouse, you can.
You're perfect with that.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you guys for having me today. The overall purpose of section 3, as you can see here, is to facilitate the contract and employment opportunities for low and very low income workers, specifically those that live in the project locations. So the grant administrator, public management will coordinate with all parties to monitor public postings and contractor requirements pertaining to section 3 provisions, track the number of hours anyone works on a grant project. And there is no action required tonight. This is just a presentation simply required in order to meet documentation requirements for the TDA. I'm open to any questions if you guys have any for me, but really basically we're just trying to facilitate employment opportunities for low income.
Any questions, guys? No question?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. There'll be no action needed on this. All right, we'll go back to 8, discussion and necessary action to award a construction contract related to the TXD CBQ number CDM 22-0020 downtown revitalization project.
So as you know, we got the grant and for this downtown revitalization, and if you want to kind of switch to the map on that. So what this project is essentially redoing the sidewalks right at this intersection up here. So we did go out for an RFP. Those were advertised on April 17th and the 24th. And the bid opening date was May 2nd. We had 3 bids, AAJ Concrete at $304, $353, JH Strain and Sons at $465, $235, and Radon at $388, $839. So we had 3 pretty good bids. Sage, we do have our engineer here with EHT. If you want to come up and add anything into that, we've got the bid sheet, bid tally sheet right there.
Sure.
So obviously, bid is A&J, but I'll turn it over.
Okay, great, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Mr. Mayor, Commission, good to see everyone. As Cynthia mentioned, we had 3 bids. AAJ is the lowest bidder. As I also mentioned, there's $434,000 available for the grant funds. This contract bid is for $304,353. So we're gonna have some available funding left over. We need to figure out how we can best implement that. We'll do that with the grant consultant. We'll make sure that we're in compliance with TDA. But the first thing to do, we need to award this contract. I've spoken with the bidder. I've checked his references. They've completed, I think he said 8 to 10 of these similar type projects. I think he's fully capable of doing the work. Based upon our research and the review of the submitted bid documents, our recommendation is to award it to AAJ Concrete in the amount of $304,353. Questions?
Big difference between first and third.
Yes, sir. You know, our cost estimate was kind of in the middle of all of those. It's kind of where we like to be. We don't want to be the lowest bidder, the highest bidder. But with this bid, it's a very competitive bid. We don't see numbers quite this low on a lot of sidewalk type projects because it's intricate. You've got to make sure you meet all the ADA slope requirements. And we were expecting the bid to be a little bit higher, but that's a good number.
Good for us too.
It's good for us, yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I'll run the coattails.
I moved to award a bid for the 2022 Texas CDBG number CDM 22-0020 downtown revitalization program sidewalk improvements to the lowest and best bidder, AAJ Concrete.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? None opposed?
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thanks.
I want to add to what this guy right there, I don't want to embarrass him, but he's a cousin. Bear, I'd raised that bear. And you know what? When he comes up here, he's never offered to buy my supper one time all the time. I can't figure that out. But he's a dang good, smart fella. Thank you, thank you. All right, we'll go to item 10. Discussion, any necessary award of professional service contract for engineer, bond counsel, and financial advisor related to the Texas Water Development Board, TWDB, lead services line replacement program. We'll give it back to the county attorney. City attorney.
Okay, so we've talked about this program for a lot of times, but as a reminder, this is for the lead service line replacement program, which is just in inventory right now. So this is basically just doing the inventory, the construction on this, which is estimated by the engineer to be about $379,000. The construction will be much higher when that comes around. Once we identify where these facilities are within our community, we have 10 years then to come back and do the construction on these. So there will be, just as a reminder, we did have a special meeting for the financing of this, our application for financial assistance from Texas Water Development Board through certificates of obligation at a special meeting, not to exceed 500,000, although again, we think the project will be 379. We did advertise for the request for qualifications for engineering, bond counsel, and financial advisor. We did receive the following for engineers, EHT for the financial advisor, Hilltop Securities, and for bond counsel, McCall, Parkhurst, and Forden. So, we're, as you can see, we're asking you to consider the award of the professional services contract for these three, and then authorize the city manager to execute those documents.
Questions, guys? Anything?
I move to approve the acceptance of qualifications for engineering services to Improtech Hibbs and Todd, financial advisor Hilltop Securities, and bond counsel McCall, Parkhurst, and Horton related to the Texas Water Development Board lead service line replacement program, and authorize the city manager to execute professional service agreements.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. None opposed, thank you. This is a 10-year project she had talked about, and I told her this today, we talked about this earlier, going over. I hope to see every one of you here in 10 years when we finish this and we've got it done. But if I'm not here, y'all come on and go then, because in 10 years, that'll put me in my late 80s, so I may be hobbling around, but y'all show up for that meeting that night. All right, item 11, discussion and any necessary action regarding approval of BEDC recommendation to a contract between BEDC and Breckenridge Industrial Foundation for economic development services.
So we've got David Miller here from the EDC to talk to you about this item.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. We are looking at, this is a backtrack a little bit. So before there were EDCs, we had industrial foundations. Our industrial foundation has been around since 1960. And so they've been doing industrial economic development way before we were. And so they have decades of experience and knowledge. What we want to do is bring them into our busy life and contract with them to give them $150,000 a year. So basically delegate some of our funds from other budgeted items to basically push projects in their directions where they can contribute to kind of the workload of what's going on with their experience, and maybe even pick up some other projects of their own that we can double team this thing. It's an annual contract. We're not going to do 150 every year though. It's only going to be basically replenishing whatever has been taken out that year and whatever projects they've done for the year. This is pretty typical for communities that have industrial foundations. Not all of them do. Is that they find a way for the industrial foundation to participate in creative ways, and that's what we're looking for here. Thank you.
Any questions, guys? Anything?
I move to approve BEDC recommendation to approve contract between BEDC and Breckenridge Industrial Foundation for Economic Development Services.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? All right. Item 12, discussion and necessary action accepting the Breckenridge. Accepting the corporation semi-annual report.
So he's here to give that too.
So we give you a semi-annual report for what the EDC is working on. You've got it in your packets, to just hit a couple items. We have seen a pretty consistent dip in our sales tax, collections. Several different reasons for that. One of the ones that struck me just this last week is just seeing the decrease in out-of-town visitors. 15 to 20% for people coming at least 60 miles away. That's a pretty significant number. I would love to be able to say it's just the bridge, but that number started dipping down months before that. I have seen, we've fielded numerous phone calls since the bridge was closed for that week or so that it was, where it's still a lingering question out there whether or not the bridge is open. Even with news that the bridge is going to have repairs done again, those conversations are coming up again of whether or not it's going to be closed. And so there's still this lingering misinformation or lack of information out there that the bridge is open and it's not going to be closed.
Well, as long as you brought that up, so TxDOT has put out a press release on that, and they are working on the bridge underneath. They don't expect any impact to the traveling public on top. There may be a few hours a day at some point if they're trying to move equipment in or do something from the top, but you know, I did send you that press release, and I'm pretty sure you all got that as well. So.
With that paired with the lake level where it's at, we think those kind of things are paired together. Maybe the lake level contributing on the front end. The other thing is just with inflation, when we brought it up a year ago, it has just continued. Interest rates have continued to rise and have not come back down. Those are pretty significant factors for our community as the rest of the United States, but especially as you get into some certain demographics, it starts to hit earlier and harder. That we have, one of the things I wish I could tell you now, put it in your packets, but there are even more things that we've been working on that are just monumental projects that have just taken longer to reach the finish line. And we really hope to be able to bring those to you really soon. I got some really good news on one of them today. We're just one more rung on the ladder closer to a really big win.
You know, I still get people, and I know you do, but probably all do, asking about the bridge out there. And, you know, don't matter what you say, they're not gonna take it for what it is. They're gonna hear what they want to hear with it. But anyhow, be good to get the work done on it, you know.
Yeah.
I've said more prayers going across it in the last few months about that. So.
Have a motion on number 12.
I move to approve the EDC semi-annual report as presented.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. David, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Item 13, discussion and necessary action regarding strategic plan update for 2024, 2025 budget priorities. We'll turn it back to our city manager.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This is a very high level budget. We're starting, you know, the budget season, and staff has already been working on that internally. But just as a reminder, over a year ago, we developed a strategic plan. And we involved a lot of people in that strategic plan, and we came up with several goals. And we'll go over those here in detail momentarily. What we do is now where we're at a year later, we want to see where we've been, how we've done on some of those goals that were set, what our progress has been, and then what are some of those outstanding goals and reprioritizing those in advance of the budget. So We're really kind of looking for some high-level direction. And so anyway, but we'll get to that. But before we do that, we did, not only did we hold that community meeting, but we also did a community survey. And so we did another one this year. And so what we've done is we compared what happened last year and what happened this year with the survey. So I'm going to go through that really quickly. I was pleased to see that our responses this year were more. We got 139 total responses versus 99. And then you can see there, I mean, the ratio is pretty much there, but the majority are residents that responded, and then lesser degree, they're residents and business owners, and then just a few non-residents. And then this is the age group, and you can see it's very similar between both years. The majority, I think, are between 35 and 54, but we have several, 18 to 34, and then several 55 up. So how many children you have in the household, again, you can kind of see the differences there. This is always a fun one to look at. The most convenient way to find out about city service news and events. So you can see here, I mean, it pretty much mirrors what it was last year, but primarily Facebook seems to be the predominant. Now, technically, is this scientific? No, because it was put out on Facebook. So obviously, you're going to have more people that get their news from Facebook answering these surveys. So we do recognize that, but I do think a lot of people get their news from Facebook to a lesser degree, word of mouth. And then, of course, our website is down there as well, and then some other mediums from the news. So the importance of infrastructure improvements, and on this graph, what you see is basically it kind of mirrors what happened last year. This is where we asked what's most important to you. So I don't think it's any surprise to anybody that streets are number one. Water, infrastructure, wastewater, drainage, substandard buildings, and to lesser extent, city facilities and park amenities. How often do you attend city commission meetings? And you can see there, I mean, unfortunately, the majority of people are never or rarely. And then it kind of goes down from there, usually or always or sometimes.
I can count on one hand in past years. I mean, before I come down here, and maybe myself, and we talked about this before. If two of us showed up for a meeting, it was something else. There's a lot of times it was just me. But,
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah. Now, I will say, one of the things, last year we initiated, over a year ago, we initiated the live streaming of the meetings and the recording of the meetings. So some people may be watching from home, and we probably need to add that to this survey next time to see how many are taking advantage of that. Of course, we can see on our channel how many are looking at it, but we do have that option for people, and I know people take advantage of that. This is one where, and anyway, so how would you rate the overall quality of services provided by the City of Breckenridge Police Department? And this is in 2023, so it's a 3.1. And then I think they're 24 on the next slide. We broke it up. Yeah, it's a little, we did this year, we did separate out that question. We took animal control and we separated that from police department. So I don't know if that's the reason for the increase to 3.4. But we did want to separate those out. So I did want to point out that was a little bit different. So this one is the overall quality of the animal control services, and that's at 2.5. Of course, we didn't ask that specifically and only last year. So this is 23, 24. How would you rate the overall, quality of services provided by the Breckenridge Fire Department. Malcolm is happy, oh, he left already.
You had to go to the fire.
He's happy to say last year they were the highest, and, I think they were the highest this year, so everybody liked the fire department, which we're grateful for. So they came out. And, this is for the Public Services Department, they came up a notch as well. And then, this is, during the survey, many residents expressed it, this is about the, splash pad and how many are interested in having a splash pad. So there's still a strong interest in, pursuing a splash pad for the park. Okay, and this is, the public works, so, you can see that that has increased from 1.5 to 2.2. I think, here's the thing, and what I've told them, you guys probably do too, out in the community. I mean, for the people themselves, this is not about the people, this is, the functionality of what we do. And so this is not a reflection of, our crews, because they do an outstanding job. It's just unfortunately a reflection of the status of our infrastructure, which we all know needs work, and we're making progress, and I'm gonna be talking about some of that, but they did come up. I think there's been some visible improvements in the streets with the roads and Seventh and Elliott. And so you see that there. This is the Breckenridge Development Services Department, which is code enforcement, it includes code enforcement. So that's come up, so I think that's a positive trend, we're coming up, which is good on all of these. And this is, how is it important is it to address city beautification in comparison to our infrastructure? So I think what we're seeing here is that it's equally important. They want us to address both. And I mean, not to read too much into it, but they really have a lot to do with one another. If we have good streets, our community looks better. So this is just a sampling of some of the comments. What are we doing well? And what we did was we just took those comments and grouped them into areas. And so this was the ranking of those. So number one was the revitalization of downtown and all the beautification, the foundation, park improvements. Generally, number two was just generally people are recognizing that we're on the right track. And, on this one, communication, they do recognize its challenges are high, but progress is being made in looks like they listed all the areas. Parks and beautification was number three. So you can see these are actual quotes. You can't quote all of them because there's a bunch of comments, but, and then employees, and this is employee pay, quality employees, employee development. And you see the comment there, employees' attitude of service to and willingness to help citizens was commented on. Streets, so the one, number five, one of the things they recognize is beautification along Walker. Of course, a lot of that is in the downtown area, but I think street repairs they mentioned there. And then just generally quality of life issues. And, they recognize cooperative effort, vision and direction for the city, and communication with citizens and input. So, and then what we need to work on. Again, these were grouped into areas, and I don't think any of this is probably any surprise. The streets tops it. Code enforcement is close second there. Water, wastewater, employee pay and development we've made improvements on that, and we'll talk about that, but people recognize that we still need to make improvements there. Communication, animal control, law enforcement, and downtown and economic development. So is that the end of it? Okay. Yeah. So, is that in the packet? Okay, so these are the things, when we're looking at the budget and staff has been working on that. So high level, in your packet, you will see the budget calendar. So just keep those dates in mind. We did get our, preliminary, values from Stevens County. And, unfortunately, I'm sad to say, they look like they've gone down a little bit. Last year, it was 268,825,034, and this year it's 267,143,881, which is about a $1.7 million decrease in the values. And you can see the categories. Primarily, it is in the minerals and business personal property is where that is. We did actually in real property, there is a little bit of an increase. So now what I want to do is just go through that strategic plan and go through our goals. And again, this is very high level, but the first set of slides of our 5 goals is just going to summarize some of the progress that we have made. So goal 1, if you remember, is invest in our infrastructure. And so we have we did develop a street plan. We were able to use we did use some CO funding, but primarily our quarter-cent sales tax funding that we had in the bank to do improvements to Rose Elliott, 7th Street, and the various intersection improvements. Ongoing is the Texas Water Development Board project. So those have been in design, and those have been in design. This year we should see them under construction. And I'm looking at the engineer. We should see them start to come online. And essentially what they are is we're going to have water treatment plant facility improvements and water line improvements. And we'll have wastewater treatment plant improvements and wastewater line improvements. So in a nutshell, that's what rules. And that's a lot of construction. If you remember earlier, we had a public meeting where we talked about all the upcoming construction for this year, which is a lot. And we're, obviously TxDOT was at that meeting. And so the construction that we see on 180 was included, the intersection improvements out at 3099 and Walker was included in that. But all of those other improvements were as well. So goal 2 is invest in our employees. And so some of the things that we've done in fiscal year 22, this is before I was here, but I just wanted to remind you that was the first increase that the employees had for several years. So they did get a 3% pay increase. In fiscal year 23-24, there was a 4% pay increase for most employees. And then with police and fire, it was an equity adjustment of $1.50. And then we phased in the certification pay. So the year prior, you guys had approved that certification pay policy, but it wasn't funded. So we had a phased in approach to that certification pay. Just in the brief time that the chief has been here, we're gonna maybe come with another strategy of continuing to phase that in. And we'll talk about that as we get into some of the details. So we also did increase the PD officer base pay from 43 to 50,500, which has really helped. We're filling up, and I think you've identified another candidate. I think we'll be fully staffed here pretty soon. We've got 2, 1 in academy and 1 going to academy, and hopefully bringing on another one. So and then another one. So various equity adjustments for the employees. The implementation of a comprehensive vehicle replacement program, and just with the supply chain, it has been slow in coming, but we are seeing those come in. You've seen the new police cars out there, and so those are coming in. An emphasis on increased training. Internally, we've been talking about that with the department heads and really emphasizing that. The creation of an employee engagement committee. We want to engage our employees and give them ownership and get their input on things that impact them or, policies internally as well. And then, public works facility improvements may seem like an infrastructure thing. But really, when you look at our employees in the workplace environment in which they work, it's super important for employees to have a good working environment. And anybody who's been out to the bottom shop, which looks like a third world country, or the top shop, knows what I'm talking about. But, so we've been doing those improvements, and that'll be, there will be another change order on that project, here in the agenda later on. So, goal number 3 is in, investing in beautifying Breckenridge. And, so some of the things that we have done, and it's difficult, and I want to give kudos to our staff, you know, everybody, I mean, from myself, to Jessica, to Diane, to Malcolm, to Stacy, to Todd, everybody, wears multiple hats. And Malcolm, our fire chief, is no different. He's the fire chief, he's the building inspector, and he's the code enforcement officer. And, you know, Wes helps with that as well, our assistant fire chief. But even with the constraints on their resources, they have been really trying to, and you have seen that in the substandard homes that we brought here before you. So there has been an increase in that. Updated various ordinances, and that's ongoing. We'll continue to do that. We've initiated the development review committee, and really, it's proactively ensuring quality development, but it's also having a business-friendly environment for our business community and our builders here in town. We have had increased maintenance on Gonzales Creek. We've dedicated more money, you guys did in the 22-23 budget, but we did also in the 23-24 budget. So, and we have actually been having employees in the Parks Department and Streets Department really help, and it's limited, we know, but help with some weeding on those main thoroughfares like Walker and 183. Again, training, this is one example for training, but for our street foreman, we sprayed certification so they can spray for weeds. And then the street sweeper, we do run it on a regular basis. One of the things I do just want to share on that is that it was bought used. And so, you know, it's not in pristine condition. And even since I've been here, you know, we have had to put some money into it to keep it running. So we can't, the workload, we have to limit the workload because it does, that piece of machine does not have the capacity to do all the streets that we need it to do. And there's a lot of streets that it needs to do. But we do try to focus on the downtown business area. So that's Walker and Williams, and we have also Parks as a concrete street. So that's less wear and tear on that piece of equipment. But a new one, just FYI, a new one would be, you know, $400,000. And I think there's other pieces of equipment that are probably a higher priority for us. So in promoting goal 4 then is promoting economic development tourism in Breckenridge as a destination. So, and we will be bringing some of this to you. We will see this in the parks plan, but the development of the 5-year plan for Lake Daniel. So that's a resource that we have. And I think if we can invest in that and attract people to that, that will be good for Breckenridge. So we do have a 5-year plan. Addressing the vegetation on Lake Daniels Dam. Of course, we have to do that, but we did use money for that. Improvements to the park, we got the new playground, and we're going to be talking about those investments from as we give you an update on the status of the CO funds that we've expended. We are pursuing grant funding for a splash pad, so we're also pursuing that. The foundation park improvements in downtown, and then working with our community agencies, working with the chamber, and just being involved in the different organizations within the community. And the fire department's very active, going out to the schools, as is the police. So that's how we get involved in the community. And then goal 5, promote transparency and communication. So these are just some of the things that we've done. We've updated the website and increased that content and really trying to use that as an education tool. We have increased our social media activity, and that has resulted in an increase of our followers by over 1,000 in the last year or so. We, like I said, we initiated the live stream and meeting recordings. Certainly making that more accessible, created a YouTube channel to post those on. They're also on the website, of course. And we're continuing to work on digitizing our operations and our records internally. We created FAQ surveys and implemented digital communication tools, and we continue to do that. So that's kind of what our strategic plan is, what we've done, where we've been, and now as we go forward, I'm just going to highlight some of those areas that we're looking for direction based on the strategic plan. This is what we see as the priorities, and you guys can let us know your direction on that. Excuse me. So infrastructure, again, the CO issuance that we did was $8.6 million. It was for street improvements, parks, and public works facilities. And I'm going to give you an update on that, but we'll continue those. We will be bringing back to you the street improvement plan. So as we work that plan, we did Rose, Elliott 7. If you remember, we had the near term, the midterm, and the long-term goals. The midterm streets are some of those streets are what we're going to be bringing back to you during this whole budgeting process, because we'll be going out for an RFP, working with our engineer, looking at expending about $4 million on street improvements. Now, not all of them will just be straight overlays like Rose and Elliott and 7. There are drainage issues that we're going to have to address, and there are other issues with the roads that we're going to have to do more extensive work on. But we're working on that list. Staff has been working with the engineers on that list, and that will be coming back to you over the next month or so. Again, the TWD projects will begin construction. We will be including, we plan to include 50,000 at least in wastewater system improvements, so that we can do some projects. And these are things like pumps that we need, clarifiers, different things like that. And then again, complete the CO funded parks projects, which we'll talk about a little bit in more detail here in a minute. Goal 2, to invest in our employees. So the goal will try to be, of course, all this is dependent on the final numbers that we get from the county and how everything pans out and what we can afford in new spending. But I mean, I don't know that we'll be able to do a 4% increase, but we definitely want to keep doing something for our employees. So it's between a 2 and 3% pay increase, to try to do some equity adjustments, continued funding of the vehicle replacement program, training, continue to phase in the certification pay, the facility improvements, fire station, address the living quarters. So as you know, we created an ad hoc committee made up of community members who were meeting with fire station employees, obviously Malcolm and West, but some employees as well. We've really got to address the living quarters at the fire station. And so we're looking at different options, and we're going to be bringing those to you here shortly. More than likely, it will require, COs to be able to do that. We do have room in our debt service to be able to do that. And I'm just going to throw out these numbers. We have very high level numbers at this point. But we're looking at, $1 million probably, 500 to $1 million. And some of the options, there were different options out there, but I think probably where it's going to land is a metal building out front of the fire station. trying to remodel and refurbish the fire station itself is probably gonna be cost prohibitive. We're probably looking at multi-million-dollar project, so I don't know that that's feasible. But, you know, we are looking at that. You know, tough looks, I think for PD is really important. We're hoping that we can find grants on that. But what that does, it allows, you know, the officers to, work in their car at the station and, you know, be seen out in the community, while doing some reports instead of going back to, the office to do that. So, we're looking at that. Goal 3, investing in beautified Breckenridge. I'm really just gonna focus on one of these. I mean, some of these are gonna be continued. You've got the presentation there, but the big one here that I want to point out, and I talked about it last year, but hiring a code enforcement officer. If there's any way possible, we can get that into the budget. I think that's, really important. It's just Malcolm is stretched and we can't do what we actually need to do. Again, goal 4, promoting, we're just gonna continue to do, what we're doing. And so I don't think the one thing I'll point out there is we are exploring that 5-year plan for Lake Daniels. In year 1, it's looking at adding docks out at Lake Daniels. So, we'll explore, you know, funding options for adding a dock out there. Goal 5, promoting transparency and communication. Again, no major expenses there, but we'll continue doing what we do. I will say their digital platforms are, there is a cost to those. We're looking at onboarding one before the next budget, in this budget, that will be another avenue to communicate with our residents. And so we're looking at hopefully rolling that out pretty soon.
I was excited about that.
Yeah, it'll be a great program. So, those are, the projects. And so, really in short, it's very high level with many details on all of these, but I just want to make sure, I mean, just to summarize, really, I think code enforcement officer, employee pay, the fire station living quarters, looking at doing CO for that. Those are the things, the high level things that I just want to make sure that we're going in the right direction. So, if there's anything different, let us know if I shouldn't even pursue that or not. So, I mean, I've kind of thrown a lot at you, and this is what happens during budget. It comes fast and furious.
That's a lot of information. But it's good. A lot of good, you know, it just takes a long time to get most of this stuff done. And I think all of y'all have done such a great job of bringing all this together to us. Because this is, lets us know what's going on, lets people know what's going on. So, we'll look for the best coming down the line, man. Good deal. All right. We'll let you rest well, not long. Okay, no action necessary. This is for direction only. Item 14.
So,
Discussion.
before we move on, so I mean, are we going in the right direction?
I can't see how we're not.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay. Just wanna make-
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Item 14, discussion and any necessary action on resolution 2024-09, adopting cities, parks and recreation plan 2024-2040.
So what this is, and I'm not gonna go over this in detail, but just as reminder of background information, we got a planning grant for $55,000. And essentially what we're doing is we're updating our comprehensive development plan. I mean, it hasn't been updated since the 60s. So, it's long overdue. The park plan is one component of that. So we have been working with our, grant administrators, public management on this. And we have presented, a lot of information to P&Z, including this park plan. We've got a few more pieces that we're waiting on to finish that up, and we plan on bringing that, you're gonna have your, those components from you. We think we'll be able to bring those to you in June, in the June meeting. So we'll see how we're dealing with that, but, the park plan is tonight, and one of the reasons why we want, even though it's a component of the comprehensive development plan overall, we wanted to bring it to you tonight, because we need a park plan in our submission for grant funding for the splash pad. So, that's what this is. And again, I'm not going to go in detail about this, but if you can scroll all the way down, I think some of the information I will say on this is, the population that's interesting, is right now we're like, in the last census, like at 5,300 about, and, the latest information that they have found is they're estimating that we actually have about 6,200 people. In Breckenridge, yeah. And so I think you've seen that in some of the growth that we've had, over the last year, in development. I mean, when I look at development, it's kind of what's going on there. But, if you'll keep going to the priorities in the park plan. So basically what the park plan does, it inventories our parks, points them out, you can see them there, to the park. This level of service, recommend right there, recommended level of service. So, these are, the high level priorities, and priority 1 is implement improvements to the Breckenridge City Park, which of course we are doing. We referenced the splash pad, replacing the outdated equipment, which we've already done that, some of that, a large part of it with that playground, which was $350,000. Upgrading the landscape, and they give, these are estimated costs, and obviously as we go and when we can implement some of these components, the price, will change, but today's pricing. You can see the Lake Daniel Park, so, working with the Public Works Director and the consultant, this is a high-level 5-year plan, and it's, looking at installing 2 boat docks, constructing restrooms, constructing RV spots with water, electric hookups, a playground, and looking at making that more of a destination for folks. It is a nice little park, but it's, as we advertise it right now, it's primitive. But I think that that's a resource that we could really build on. And so you see that there, we've got improvements to Booker T. Washington Park, some of the outdated equipment. We did already do some lighting down there. We are looking at, and you'll see in a moment, lighting at the baseball, softball fields that they have out there. We're looking at that. Priority 4 is improvements to the community gardens park, establishing parks in neighborhoods and in new subdivisions as they come online, and designating natural areas for use as nature parks and green belts. And I think we've done, a pretty good job of that. I mean, the birdhouse park, taking some of those pieces of property that are in the floodplain that they're pretty much unusable for building and repurposing them as green space in our city. And so continuing that. And you can go in there in detail and look at that plan. You've got the link in your pack. Actually, I think you have it in your pack. It's in it. Yeah. So the P&Z, this has been presented to the P&Z. And so now it's before you, and they are recommending, that you approve the resolution that adopts this as our official City of Breckenridge Parks and Recreation Plan.
I move to approve P and Z recommendation to approve resolution 2024-09, adoption of the City of Breckenridge Parks and Recreation Plan 2024-10. 2040.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? None opposed? All right, thank you. Go to item 15, discussion and any necessary action regarding a change order for the public works facility.
Okay, on that, this would be the second change order, and, as you know, the building was, 231. We had a change order for, spray foam that was about 20,000, 19,618. This change order is, for one of the metal buildings that will be our storage building, and, installing, metal shelves. Built-in metal shelves that will be a lot sturdier for that facility. So you can see that is at estimated at 21,300. And it still keeps it under, I mean, estimated, you know, when we were doing this high level, we estimated 600,000 for parks and 600,000 for public works facilities. With this change order, that total would be at 272,000. It still leaves 327,000 out of that 600,000 unspent. So the funding is there.
You know, and Rob, know as well as I do, for years, there's been no improvements down there. Do you know of any, just off the top of your head? Yeah, I know you gotta fix things in this.
Works, no,
But,
I mean, not as far as like anything that was set in front of us, no,
yeah,
other than just daily maintenance and stuff like that, but as far as fully replacing the facility.
it's been running down for years and years, so.
It means a lot to the employees.
Yes,
It
it
really
does.
does, yeah.
It really does.
Move to approve change order number 2 as presented.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Item 16, discussion and any necessary action to certificate of obligation fund status and updating park projects.
Okay, so what I wanted to do here was show you just kind of the status of what those expenditures on the public works side and on the park side have been. And again, when we were initially doing this, it was 600, estimated to be about 600,000 for public works facilities, because, you know, we were just going on high level quotes. And parks as well, high level quotes for park improvements. So, you can see that listing there, assuming that which you guys did, that leaves the delta there is 327 in facilities. So you can see that running total for park improvements. There were miscellaneous improvements that totaled about 190, and you can see them all listed there. It's tarp, pool filter, mower, generator, dog park, foundation park, Booker T lighting, volleyball court, pickleball, electric transformer. And that was all at about 190. You can see what that actual cost there on that far right column had been. So we did go a little over there, that's 609. And primarily that was the pool filter. Because some of the other things, I mean, you know, the foundation part, we had allocated, you know, 44, it was 43, a little bit under. So what I'm looking for, a direction for tonight is if you guys are open to using a portion of the delta that's available on the public works side to fund some additional park improvements. And so and you can see those listed there, in the dog park, what we were originally looking at was the fencing for the dog park. We knew we wanted to come back for shade structures, but, you know, we weren't sure exactly what that might look like. So we would like to get some shade structure benches, and right now, I mean, an estimate, and these again are estimates, but it's around 20,000. Volleyball court lighting, I mean, I think there's a lot of interest in volleyball court, and if we could add lighting, I think that would allow people to utilize it maybe when it's a little bit cooler, instead of the heat of the day, although I think there'll be people out there in the heat of the day.
Go back one to that first page. The electric transformers, that's run the pool, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah.
Does it give up the ghost?
Well, no, what we
Between the
did was we put that in there. We've been talking with Gordon at Encore. And he's been kind of putting that on our radar. And since we were doing this, I mean, it might not, we have 3 years to spend this money. And so you'll notice that those aren't expended yet. That's still on our radar to do, but, we're waiting maybe a year before that happens. And working with Gordon on that. So that-
Tracy, can't you fix that? You fix everything else down there.
I can fix it, but I don't think Malcolm would pass it, so.
Okay. We'll take care of Malcolm. You fix it.
Okay.
All right. Okay, that answers
Okay.
the question.
Yeah. And so you see the lighting there. Again, these are estimates. I just wanna emphasize that. One of the things, everybody loved the playground equipment and it's been a big hit. And you even mentioned that, you've had out of towners there.
Yes, I've had other cities call and ask questions about it. They're wanting something this good in their city.
Yeah.
And, people are taking notice. A lot of people drive up and down 180 up Walker Street. And a lot of people are taking notice.
Well, yeah, especially of the new area, it was,
Well, there's
Yeah.
always people out there. I mean, people are really liking that. But one of the comments we did get was, well, what about toddlers? And so we did look at what a toddler playground would be, and we do have room for it there. And that estimate would be 78,000. I think that soft surface is another positive, improvement to the park. We do have it under the swings. If we wanted to put it, underneath the dinosaurs, it'd be another 16,000. Again, these are estimates. A mule, we do have trucks, so we do have parked vehicles, but unfortunately, a lot of times for that travel just around the park area, like for events and things, I mean, they've been using they were bringing in their own personal mules for events. And so if we can get a mule for them, I think that would be helpful. The slide motor, again, additional lights at Booker T, at the ballpark there, the field there. So those are about 174,000. And again, I mean, that's an estimate. It could be 200. But even at 200, it still would leave us, extra money between this 1.2 between the two. And then anything left over would of course be spent for street improvements.
Did I understand you say with about 3 years, did you bring that up with that? Or
Yeah,
we're looking at about a 3-year deal in here.
well, I mean, that's what, if we don't spend it in 3 years, we're not gonna lose it.
Right.
But yeah, they want to see that you are,
I got you.
making, not
Okay.
just holding on to the money. The other thing I do want to just mention here is that with the splash pad, we are going for a grant. And we're going for a large one, 700, the larger one was up to $750,000. We are thinking it could be $500,000 because it might have to include a pump house for the splash pad. We have also found out, just another piece of information, that the baby pool, we were thinking we would remodel the baby pool and repurpose it as a splash pad. But because that was grant funding, federal, we can't do that. So then just brainstorming internally and with our grant administrators, what we're looking at doing then is making that baby pool, keeping it, making it ADA accessible and putting that into the grant funding request. And then that, splash pad, we've got a meeting tomorrow with a gentleman, but we're looking at putting it, I guess it kind of be to the west of the pool, southwest.
To Yeah, be south of the main pool, east of the baby pool.
Yeah, what, east, sorry, yeah.
Gotcha.
So that funding, our responsibility for that, keep in mind this, these funds are earning interest. And the estimate for the interest earnings at the end of a 3-year period, knowing how we're staging the funding of these projects is, I mean, we could be as high as $400,000 extra in funds. And so what we're thinking is using that to fund our portion of the grant funding for the splash pad.
There've been, over the years, there's been a lot of talk about wanting a splash pad, so that would be neat.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think people are, they would, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know it's been said, and we can look at that, I know Commissioner Moore has talked a lot about this, you know, it being outside the fence so that it would be, there wouldn't be a charge. So, you know, we're just kind of thinking about strategies for that. I mean, right now it is inside the fence, but, you know, there are strategies to maybe address that if that's a direction that you all want to go. So, yeah, so that's, I'm really kind of seeking direction from you, tonight on these additional projects and see if that's something that you guys are,
Should be relatively cheap, I think, but, did the bathrooms in the pavilion, like we doing those, was that a concern of, I hadn't been there in a while, but the last time I was, it was pretty, just kind of tore up and kind of nasty. The
well,
pavilion,
yeah, I
the
hear
main
you, I don't
pavilion.
know, I mean,
What,
it-
We've replaced one door, we've got another door. we'll
I mean,
replace
it's been a
with
year or two since I've been in there, so, I mean, that's good then.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I don't know what you're actually looking at, but,
Okay, perfect.
maybe, you know, maybe we need to get together and look at.
No, I haven't been in a long time, I just know like the last few times I was like, but if it's
Yeah,
on the up and up, then that's
yeah,
good.
they're 33 years old,
Yeah,
but,
I know.
I mean, that's something that we could look at,
No,
you
that
know,
was just, I
I
mean,
mean, it wasn't,
something
you know,
relatively
brought
cheap.
up, but I mean, obviously they're 33 years old, just like the playground was.
yeah.
no, I mean, he knows, I haven't been forever, I just didn't know.
New doors and a coat of paint makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and that's what it needed, yeah, so that's good.
I did have a couple of people reach out and mention that they did like the lights at the Booker T Park. And I'd been around there a few times and I noticed that there was a little bit more traffic there. I did have a couple of people reach out and mention about not the magnitude of the city park, but like maybe a possible something, playground equipment. And I saw in there that it was, you know, improvements to that
Yeah,
were there, so.
well, and we still have, here's the thing, I mean, that has been on the radar, I mean, we've kind of gone back and forth about the location of the toddler park. And, you know, we, you know, toyed internally with the idea of, you know, putting that down at Booker T. But trying to keep the toddler, I mean, I will say that quadrant of town improvements are needed and it's in our park plan to do. But they are the closest within walking distance, like versus the northwest or northeast. We can look at that, we can consider that. We've also had some internal discussions about going out for a grant.
Yeah, and it was just, I mean, they weren't, it wasn't a complaint, it was like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, we noticed that the lights, and so, like, you know, there's more traffic there, but just simply because, you know, you may have somebody that it's a little simpler to go to Booker T Park
Sure,
rather than the city park simply because of the traffic.
Yeah.
You know, there's more people, more population using that area, so they come to the Booker T Park to kind of, you know, to get away. Plus the lights Do what?
There's no highway, right?
Right,
Right, yeah.
the lights at the ball field, almost wish we'd got those like 20 years ago. Cause that was one of the fields that we used to practice on, and you have more people that are actually using that. And you can use that as like a little side fundraiser thing, you know, if you have a fundraising tournament or something, you can still have that
Yeah.
area to use. So I like that park is being utilized. You know, hats off to the high school kids that started that, and everything has rolled off of that, off of them making those improvements and stuff. So I think having a park and a half, I think will be.
Well, and so the other option there, it's on our radar, which we've talked about with the park plan itself, because that is in the park plan, to add, update the playground equipment at Booker T.
Yeah.
So one of the things is that whatever amount of interest we have, it probably won't all be needed on the splash pad grant. And so we could go out for a grant like the next year and use matching funds from that interest to fund park improvements.
Yeah, and I, you know, I told him, I said, it's not gonna happen tomorrow, you know, or anything like that, but. I mean, I even had somebody bring up the idea of, what are they gonna do with the old park equipment? I said, it's getting put out to pasture. I mean, it's old. They're like, well, they could have used that. I said, no, it's not that simple. You know, I said, yes, I was sad to see the swing go, but you know, it's not feasible, and it's a liability, so.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's good to see that on there, which I've worked with Stacy on a couple of things as far as, you know, we had a Juneteenth celebration there, and we had a lot of people that had come back to town for that, and they were impressed with the upkeep. You know, Stacy was on top of things, and so it's good to see that park is being utilized, you know, not just for one event, but by everybody. So I think that's a good thing.
Well, and I think with the lighting at the ball, you know, fields there.
Well, that brings many more people to it, kids, you know, for baseball or anything else. So, yeah, dang good.
I see, mention one thing on the lighting. We went out for several bids on the lighting, and this is the only one we got. This is lighting. It's not ballpark lighting. It's gonna light it up where you can see and you can use it, but it's, you know, we're 150,000 away from ballpark lighting.
Oh,
That's good.
I wouldn't expect that to be like ballpark. I mean, heck, when we played on it, it was like 6 light bulbs per stadium. So you're, or any kind of lighting would be good. I mean, we had a softball that went below the hill, and it was the barbed wire fence on the other side. It was everybody for himself and Jesus for us all. So no, any kind of lighting would be good.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. This is not.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be like Rangers, Ranger Stadium or anything.
Well, what was it? It was like,
150,000.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
that's crazy.
That's probably not feasible, but.
Good. Oh, do I need to?
So, yeah, I think.
We're on 14, that's 16. Move to approve staff request to fund additional park improvements.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Uh,
Aye, none opposed? All right. 17, discussion any necessary action regarding fiscal year 2024-25 annual audit engagement letter.
So we do this every year. These are our auditors, and, they did go up $500. I think it was 28.5 last year. It's 29,000 this year. If there is a single audit required, it would be an extra 4,500. So that's what we got. You got the engagement letter there in your packet.
Move to approve the fiscal year 2024-2025 annual audit engagement agreement and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 18's been pulled from the agenda. Go to item 19. Discussion, any necessary action regarding ordinance 2024-08, closing the remainder of Sixth Street at Panther and Sixth Street at Shelton.
If you want to go to the map. So this is a situation that was similar to the American Legion facility. If you remember, we thought the commission action closed all of these streets, but when we actually went and did the survey, when we sold that building, we found out there were some parts that were left out. And so this is one such instance where these were closed, but these areas in red were actually left out. And so what this does, it closes that loop of closing the streets and conveying it to the property owner. They were just left out of the survey.
I move to approve ordinance 2024-08, closing the remaining portions of West Sixth Street and authorizing conveyance to the adjacent property owner. Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor? None opposed? All right, item 20, discussion, any necessary action regarding approval of ordinance 2024-07, updating the schedule fees, and this will be a first reading on this.
So in the last meeting, we did bring this to you guys. It was published incorrectly, so therefore it was motioned incorrectly. So the first reading did not count. But in lieu of that, we actually, after that, we did determine and figured out that we had left something out. So it is good that we need to bring them back anyway, to kind of avoid any future issues with it. So one of the things that we did not bring back, everything else is the same. But what we did not address is non-residential customers. If you remember for brush dumping, we went and we determined that city residents would be able to dump brush for free with a water bill, just like they have their free dump. They still get their free dump every month as well, but they can use their water bill to go dump brush. But we did not address non-residents that are not on city, who do not have city water services. So that we, in the previous, we talked about commercial customers at $20 for a truck and $40 for a trailer. We just kind of met in the middle there with a minimum fee of $10 for a truck and $20 for a trailer. Of course, all of those fees are, at the discretion also of the attendant out there, who we've gotten great reviews that he's doing an awesome job out there, and he's really been very helpful. So we try to keep it as minimal as possible and really try to help residents be able to dump brush out there and help clean up everything. So everything else is the same. If you'll remember, we had the pool fees, the rental fees, the addition of the punch pass for the city pool, and then the fee for water services if somebody had moved, that they just need a temporary service just to clean up services.
I move to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-07, updating the schedule of fees as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, none opposed? All right. Any items come to mind next time around at this point? No items come around. It is 6:58. This meeting is adjourned. Thank all of you.
Huh?